All right, hello Baxter Memorial Library. I'm super excited to be doing this program for you today, so thank you for hosting it. My name is Mackenzie Whalen, and I am a wildlife specialist. I've worked for various nature centers in the Boston area, including the New England Aquarium, the Museum of Science, and Zoo New England. My friend Colin is going to be filming this for us today, so thank you, Colin. And this little guy in my hands is named Pegasus, and he is a royal python. They are also called ball pythons, but I prefer royal pythons, so that's what I'm going to call him. And I'm going to tell you more about Pegasus and about the snakes that you can find in the Gorham area a little bit later, but I thought the best way to start the video would be to talk about some of the most frequently asked questions that I get about snakes. Now, I've noticed that generally, when it comes to snakes, people are mostly curious about two things. One thing that they're curious about is venomous snakes, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But they're also just curious about general snake anatomy. Now, I know that they look so strange and unique on the outside that people are usually asking me, how do snakes get around? How do they move? Do they have bones? Why are their feeding habits so strange and so much different from the way that we eat? Now, it is true that snakes are definitely unique types of animals, but they actually have a lot more in common with humans than you might think. So I'll talk about our similarities first before I get into our differences. So the inside of the body of a snake isn't too different from the inside of our bodies. Of course, in terms of their skeleton, they are missing a lot of bones. They don't have arms and legs like us. But a snake skeleton consists of a skull, a very long spine, and they have many, many ribs, of course, a lot more than we have. Some snakes, only some species, not all of them, but this does include royal pythons like Pegasus, also have a very small pelvic bone too. Their organs are pretty similar to ours also. Snakes have a brain, they have a heart, they have a liver and kidneys. They have lungs too. Some species have one lung, some have two. So just like us, they do have a digestive system and a circulatory system and a nervous system and even more. We are pretty different in terms of our senses though and how we process information about our environment. So snakes generally cannot see very well. Some of them can see better than others, but a lot of them are even completely blind. And Pegasus is not a blind kind of snake. Royal pythons can see, but really not very well like most snakes. They don't rely on their vision very heavily to give them a sense of their environment. It's one of their weaker senses. He probably can just see general large shapes, movement, and distinguish between light and dark. Whoa, he kind of spooked himself there. Some species of snake are able to sense heat as just another sense to give them a sense of their environment and their surroundings. And if we could possibly zoom in on Pegasus's face. He's being kind of a silly boy right now, so maybe we'll see it better later. But I really like to talk about heat sensing with ball pythons or royal pythons because they have some of the most prominent, and obvious heat sensing organs out of any of the snake species. And those are his heat pits. So if you look in between where his nostrils and his mouth is, you'll see a little row of holes. It's almost forming like where a mustache would be. It's kind of cute. But yep, those are his heat pits. Thank you, Colin. I think that's good. those are his heat pits, and each one of them is lined with many thermoreceptor cells. So that allows him to sense very, very small changes in his environment. All species of snake, though, are pretty good at smelling, and I'm sure most of you have already noticed that he is sticking out his tongue all the time and he's waving it in the air. Now, a lot of people know that snakes smell with their tongue. That's common knowledge, but they are not smelling with their tongue directly. He is using it, though, as a tool to help him to smell. So the sense organ that he's actually using to process scents is called the Jacobson's organ, and it's located on the inside of his mouth, on the roof of his mouth. So that's why he needs his tongue to help him. When he sticks it out and waves it in the air, scent particles stick to his tongue. So then when he brings it back inside of his mouth, he transfers those scent particles from his tongue to the Jacobson's organ, and that's how he smells. All snakes do this. All snakes have a pretty good sense of smell. A really cool thing that I like about snakes is they can't hear sound, but they can detect sound. That's a little confusing, I know. What I mean by that is he cannot hear the sound of my voice, but he might be able to detect it by sensing the vibrations given off by the sound waves. He is a ground snake, so he's not as good at detecting airborne sounds. Usually his jaw would need to be in contact with the ground or another surface to be able to pick up these vibrations. But other species of snakes are better at that than others. But if you look again at his head, or if you noticed before when we looked at his head, you will not find any ears, no ears. No ear openings either, and I'll also tell you that snakes do not have eardrums. What's really interesting, though, is they do have inside of their head, they still have a middle and an inner ear. And those are the parts of the snake that they use to process sound waves. All right, so as I was explaining how snakes sense sound, I told you that Pegasus is a ground snake. Now, there are over 3,000 species of snakes that we've discovered so far in the world. And they can be found on almost every continent, all continents except for Antarctica, because, it's too cold for snakes to live there. But that means they are very, very diverse. You can find them in so many different kinds of habitats. Some snakes live in the desert. Some are adapted to living in a humid environment like a rainforest. Some snakes are very, very small. Some snakes are very, very long. So they do have a lot of differences between them. All right, so this is a really good angle to demonstrate this on Pegasus. Do you see how the bottom of his body is just lying flat, and then on either side, the sides go up and they kind of form a triangle shape where his spine is to meet there? When snakes have that body type, that usually means that they are well adapted to slithering on the ground. Some snakes are well adapted to swimming. Some are very good at climbing. There are even many snakes in the world that are completely arboreal, and that means that they spend their entire lives in the canopies of trees. Pegasus is not one of these snakes. As I said before, he is a ground snake, so he spends most of his time just trying to really squish himself into the smallest spaces possible and slither underneath rocks or logs or other things like that, so he can hide himself and stay protected from something that might want to eat him. So I said that I would also talk about venomous snakes as well, because of course, one of the main reactions that I get when people see a snake, or if we're talking about snakes, is dangerous, oh no, I'm afraid of them, are they gonna bite me, they're venomous, they're poisonous. A lot of people are very afraid of snakes. So first, snakes are not poisonous. Some of them are venomous though. But most of them actually are completely harmless. Another misconception about them is that snakes are aggressive and want to bite you and want to go after you. That's really not the case with almost any of them. They're actually very fearful creatures. If you ever do encounter a snake, probably it's not gonna try to bite you. It's most likely just gonna slither away or try to hide. They usually are really pretty docile and gentle and not very aggressive at all. Ooh. All right, so I said before that there's over 3,000 species of snake in the world. And I'm gonna ask you guys, what percentage of snakes in the world do you think have venom that is potentially strong enough to harm or kill a human? And you can pause the video for a second if you'd like to think about it or talk with your friends and family and see what they think. So the answer is less than 2%. Only about 1.5% of all the species of snakes in the entire world have venom that is strong enough to harm a human. Now, of course, you would be very wise to keep your distance from venomous snakes because they can be dangerous. But lucky for all of you up in Maine, there are no venomous snakes in your area. There are only 9 species of snake that are native to Maine, and none of them are venomous. They're all pretty harmless, and they're all pretty tiny also compared to other ones. One of my favorite species of snakes that you have in Maine is called the black racer. They can get very, very long. They're pretty fast, obviously, as their name implies. And I think that they are very, very beautiful. Unfortunately, though, they are considered to be an endangered species in Maine. Of course, this makes me sad, and I do hope that their populations increase and that they recover in the next coming years. The good news, though, is that you can still help endangered animals even when we are all staying inside our homes safely and staying healthy for now. You can make a donation to one of the local nature centers in your area. The Maine Audubon Society is a very good one. You can also log on to the websites of the Defenders of Wildlife or the Sierra Club. Both of these organizations allow people to make donations to specific kinds of animals. So you can go online and choose your favorite kind of animal to support and protect from extinction. In the past, I have donated to wolves and alligators and whales I've done, and also sharks. Those are some of my favorite animals. And to thank you, they will send you a cute little stuffed animal of your choosing or a framed photo and other gifts for helping to save these animals in their natural environments. Now that is actually all the time that we have for this program today. So thank you everyone for watching. And also, I would like to tell you that I will be doing a follow-up video. I'll be doing a second video. So if you have any questions for me about Pegasus or about snakes or any general reptile or animal questions that you have, please leave them in the comment section on the Facebook page. And please get these questions in by April 7th so I can collect them and answer all of your questions in a second video. So thank you to the Baxter Memorial Library for hosting this program, and thank you to Pegasus for helping us with this. And I will see you all again soon. Bye.